Welcome back to Old School Sports and our OOTP22 playthrough with the New York Yankees. We are through our first offseason with the team, and we accomplished a lot of what we talked about in our first episode of what we wanted to change to turn these Yankees from the underachieving disappointment that they've been over the last 20 years to a team that we believe is better equipped to compete for World Series championships on a regular basis. I did forget to mention one final other change that I made to the settings in the first episode was to allow the trading of injured players. That was the one other thing that I changed from the standard rules associated with challenge mode. But I don't allow draft pick trading, so that will certainly slow down the ability to improve our minor league system. As we get ready to begin the 2022 season, you can see that we've got the second highest budget and the second highest payroll in the game. Astronomical market size and fan interest. We did inadvertently, I think, damage fan loyalty a little bit. We had seen the ticket price of $73.87 from last season and changed it to $60, which seemed high to us. And as you can see, it actually was. I believe that was some kind of prorated, COVID-related number. But we only sold 9,700 season tickets, which was disappointing. So we've dropped our ticket price now to $40 for going forward. So hopefully, although our season ticket base is very low, the lower price will allow more people to get into the seats and hopefully increase fan loyalty along with a better record for us. We bumped our scouting budget up to $18 million and our development budget up to $26 million. Want to be very aggressive in terms of developing our farm system over time, since we're planning on using our big payroll plus a great farm system to hopefully build a very sustained success with this team that wins multiple championships in the coming years. So we were very busy after taking over the team in November in demoting Brian Cashman. I mentioned that we allowed ourselves to trade injured players in the rules. Part of that was we traded away Zach Britton, who's still injured for another couple of weeks or couple of months, along with a couple of prospects to the Blue Jays, and we got Jake Lamb in return, who is now our first baseman. The main purpose of that was just to get Britton's large contract off of the books. We have Aroldis Chapman at $16 million for an old lefty reliever. Having Zach Britton at $14 million for another old lefty reliever was just a little aggressive, even for the Yankees. Then we made another trade, traded away Darren O'Day. Just got a minor league center fielder who we let go in return. Basically just wanted to remove his contract. And that was kind of the highlights for the month of November. We did, fire our first and third base coaches, hired a third base coach, hired a first base coach, and we also upgraded our team trainer, fired Tim Lentich, and hired a new trader, Rick Jameson, who's pretty extraordinary in terms of being a trainer. So a couple of minor moves there. But then we went to December, and that was when the activation of the plan that we discussed in our first episode really started to come to fruition. You can see we signed Aaron Judge to a 7-year contract extension, total of $184 million. He was in his final year of arbitration. Contract is reasonably reasonable, $20 million up to $29 million over the next 6 seasons, and then we've got the option for the 7th season. So a lot of money, but it's good to have the best player on our team lined up and signed up for the foreseeable future in the bulk of his career. Then we did trade Roughneck Odor away. Has a very big contract, only 1 year left. Had to include a couple of young prospects a young prospect in OCL Rodriguez, as well as a solid major league pitcher in Domingo Germán. And then we got Kikuchi in return, who was headed to arbitration, and he was looking for an insane amount of money from our perspective in arbitration, or I think around 16 or 17 million. So we just let him go. Basically, it was paying them with a minor leaguer in Germán to take Odor off of our roster. And then we traded Clint Frazier and one other minor league prospect, nothing particularly exciting, to the Angels to get David Fletcher, who looks like he may actually be our starting second baseman, which is not what we intended, but he's obviously got a very good glove at second base, as you can see. Good guy to have in the clubhouse and on the team, and he's signed for a fairly long term at this point. You can see his salaries will be running from 4 to 8 million over the next several years, and then we've got a team option for his final season. Really kind of picture him long term as more of a utility infielder for us. We thought that Gleyber Torres would become the starting second baseman, but as of right now, it appears that Boone wants to start the better defensive second baseman at Fletcher. And speaking of Gleyber Torres and the fact that Fletcher was a shortstop when we signed him, another big trade that we made was trading Tyler Wade, a minor league prospect, and another minor league prospect to the Phillies, and returning Didi Gregorius to the Yankees to be our starting shortstop. Good defensive player, solid defensive shortstop, certainly an upgrade from Torres defensively. His bat is not what it once was, but a very strong person for the clubhouse, personality of a captain. He is in the last year of his contract at $14.5 million. We got Philly to keep a good chunk of it. So we don't have a long-term answer at shortstop right now, although we do have Fletcher signed for the foreseeable future, so he certainly could help us with that. Also traded away Wandy Peralta, and then made one of the big trades that we had been talking about, Joey Gallow, who very talented hitter, great power, great eye, but as we talked about in the first episode, just does not make good enough contact and strikes out so much that he would be incredibly frustrating for us, although we did like the fact that he was a left-handed bat. So we were able to trade him and a minor league pitcher, decent prospect, for Cody Bellinger, who will slot in as our starting center fielder. That was an area that we wanted to upgrade, and I think Bellinger will certainly do that. Now, the issue is he's making a lot of money this year. He's arbitration eligible again next year, so he's very expensive for a player who over the last couple seasons has certainly not lived up to the massive expectations people had for him after his first few years in the majors, but definitely a very strong defensive center fielder with a good bat and potential to increase. So very excited that we added Bellinger to the team, even though we had to get rid of Gallo to do it. And then, of course, as I mentioned, the number one thing we wanted to do was trade away Gary Sanchez, another player who doesn't make good contact, strikes out far too much for us, and also his catcher ability was just not what we were looking for. And we were actually able to upgrade significantly by picking up Austin Hedges, the OOTP defensive legend, for him. He can't hit, and he doesn't have the power that Sanchez does, but a exponentially better defensive catcher, great in the clubhouse, another personality captain. So happy to bring on Hedges to join the team. As we will talk about, he's actually most likely going to be our backup catcher with some other moves that we made, but very happy to have him on the team. And as I said in the first episode, if it's okay if our catcher can't hit but we definitely want someone who can play defense, and we figure we could do that. Did have to give away a minor league prospect who doesn't have great potential to get the trade done. And then we also traded Luke Voight away for Pavin Smith. Decent prospect. He's actually in AAA for us, which has got to be disappointing for him after spending the last couple of years in the majors with Arizona. But he could definitely become our first baseman of the future, potentially. Other than that, we signed a number of players right ahead of arbitration. We re-upped Corey Kluber, and then we made, I think, the last of the big trades that we had talked about potentially making. We got rid of Aaron Hicks. Obviously, we now have our center fielder for this year on board, and wanted to get rid of that long contract for what we viewed as a relatively average player. Also gave away another center fielder, Tim LaCastro, to the Dodgers. And we got Edwin Rios, who was taken away from us in the Rule 5 draft just a couple weeks later, as well as a minor league pitcher with decent potential in return. Basically, we didn't get much in return, but we got Hicks's large contract off of our books, which was the main goal. Moving into January, we got busy in the free agent market. Although I mentioned we had traded for Lamb, we were unable to get him signed to an extension before he became a free agent. But we did quickly sign him once free agency began. He can see to a quite modest contract for the next couple years. Left-handed bat, which we definitely needed. Decent defensively at first base, not that it's a critical position, and with a little bit of power. So looking forward to seeing what he does this year, and then kind of deciding whether long-term the answer is going to be him or Pavin Smith, and we will probably decide on that in the not-so-distant future. And then our one major free agent signing, Carlos Radon, finally coming off the season in which he unleashed his great potential that has been there for all of these many years. And he has joined our rotation. So we have Garrett Cole and Radon at the top of the staff. Very excited about that. Can see incredible stuff, plus movement, good control. 2 excellent pitches with his fastball and the slider, a very strong changeup, and a good curveball. So that was the big addition, and we were actually surprised at how reasonable he was. You can see $18 million a year for the next 5 years, and we've got the option on 2026. So that was probably, given the fact that he's really just had, the one healthy, strong season in the last 3 years, and has historically dealt with a lot of injuries. Didn't scare the Yankees off, but it probably scared off some teams that have to be a little more responsible with their spending, so it worked out for us. And then I mentioned that we traded away Sanchez, and we have a new starter, Christian Vasquez. Signed him from the Red Sox. He is great in the clubhouse, a little bit of a bat. Not quite as strong defensively as Austin Hedges, but still a very good defensive catcher. And he will be starting for us, and Hedges will be his backup. And then with the departure of Hicks, we needed to sign another outfielder, obviously with Judge in right field signed for the long term. We still have the potential issues in center field, and we'll see what happens there. And then in left field, we've got Stanton, but we needed another bat for the outfield who could play center field for us in a pinch, which is all we'd want him to do, have a decent bat, switch hitter, a lot of versatility. So glad to bring Almonte on board, although it's only for this one season, and then presumably he'll be looking for more next year. And those were kind of the major free agent additions that we made through the end of January. February, just made a few minor signings, bolstering our minor league system a little bit with players that have a little bit of potential. Kind of continued the same thing in March, signed an international amateur, kind of a few free agent outfielder and a pitcher to minor league contracts. Don't think that either of these guys are going to ever be major league players, but you can see with Drevy and Williams-Nelson, very good leadership, very good work ethic. The type of guy that you want to help kind of shape others in our minor league system. And you can see that now we have gotten to April 7th. Obviously made the final cuts, very busy over the last few days. And when we decided that Hedges was going to be our backup and that Vasquez was going to be our starter, made the tough decision to dump our previous backup catcher also. If we could have sent him to AAA, we would have, but he was out of options. So in the final stages, actually after the end of spring training, you can see we traded him and minor league prospect away for a minor league catcher, essentially. Probably not going to ever do much at the major league level with Feliciano, but good work ethic, hits a little bit, respectable defensively. Certainly he will be somebody that we could call up and play at the major league level if we do have any injuries. So as you can see, we did a lot of what we had planned to do in the offseason in terms of reshaping the team, taking a look at our lineup as we head into the regular season. Really the only player that we had thought about potentially trading away that we didn't was Stanton. We've mentioned, that massive contract, which $29 million this year, and then is going to be $32 million for the next few years. So certainly maybe someone that we need to trade away, but the options that we had were not all that attractive. And coming off a good season, still only 32 years old, hopefully we can extract another year or two out of him without any major injuries, and then maybe find someone, Dodgers, Angels, Red Sox, Mets, some big spending other team other than the Yankees who may be willing to take his contract off from us in the coming years. But Vasquez will be starting at catcher with Hedges backing up, so very happy with the defense there. You can see we've got Lamb and LeMahieu at first base. It looks like at this point Boone is going to lean towards playing LeMahieu there, which is fine. As I mentioned, Fletcher looks like he will normally be the starting second baseman, which is certainly a big upgrade defensively. Shortstop is going to be Gregorius, and then third base, more often than not, is going to be Urshela. So surprisingly, Glaber is not in the starting lineup. You can see we've moved him to second base, and we did train him during spring training at third base. He's certainly not extremely competent there yet, but with the strong arm that he has, we think he can potentially become a decent third baseman for us over the next couple of years, hopefully. So he is really kind of our utility infielder, which is kind of surprising for a player who just a couple seasons ago was one of the top young prospects in the game. Definitely gives us a lot of flexibility if we do have injuries, though. The preference is probably not to be starting him at shortstop regularly. So even if Didi went down, my thought is that Fletcher would probably play over there, better defensive shortstop than Glaber. But hopefully he will get to play a decent amount this season and get his career back on track. And then you can see in outfield, Stanton, Bellinger, and Judge across from left center to right. Very strong. Very happy to add the left-handed bat in Bellinger and the left-handed bat in Gregorius, and then the left-handed bat in Lamb, although it seems like he will be more of a backup and platoon player right now. And then I mentioned Almonte, the switch hitter, kind of our fourth outfielder, and Andujar on the team. Both of them will probably get some action at DH also. So I feel like we are a much better defensive team than we were last season. Still would like another left-handed bat or two in the lineup, but not something we were able to fix in this offseason. At least we'll have Gregorius and Bellinger in there every day. I believe Almonte will probably be playing some DH in outfielder, and I think at times, I think in one of Aaron Boone's lineup, he actually has Stanton at DH, which is good to hopefully keep him a little healthier, and Almonte as the starting left fielder. And then hopefully Lamb will get some action off the bench and as a pinch hitter and platooning at times with LeMahieu. And certainly if we have any injuries, LeMahieu is another player who could play a very competent second base and a solid third base for us too. So feel we have a lot of versatility in the infield if we have short or long-term injuries, and very happy with the changes we've made. I think we're going to have much better defense, as I mentioned, and I think the offense will actually be better too, because we've got some players who, while they may not have the power of a Sanchez or a Odor or the two players that we brought on midway through the season last year that we let go, with Rizzo at first base and our left fielder. We've got people who can make better contact, so hopefully that will result in a overall better offense for us. Moving to our pitching staff, we still have Cole on top, and as I mentioned, Radon. With the two of them, we've got two premier pitchers if they can stay healthy. And it's going to be important for them to stay healthy because the rest of our rotation, Montgomery, should slot in as our third starter after a nice season last year at the age of 28. But the rest of our starters are Kluber, who is fragile and will soon be 36 years old. Luis Severino, who is only 28 and is considered normal injury proneness, but has spent most of the last several seasons injured. And then we've got Jameson Taillon, who's playing in the bullpen for us now. Also a fragile pitcher, but he would be the one most likely to move into the rotation if we do have some injuries, which I'm sure we will. So, the hope is that Cole, Rodon, and Montgomery all can pitch 30-plus starts, relatively full seasons, and then hopefully the back end of the rotation with Kluber, Severino, and Taillon, build it up with them. The bullpen is very similar to what it was last year. Did not make any major changes there. Really, the only addition was Matt Strahm, who we picked up. Believe it was in a trade. I can't even remember exactly how we acquired him. It was a trade. Okay, so that Wandy Peralta trade. We were basically just trading a one left-hander for another. We liked Strahm a little more, and believe he might have a little more potential for us for the long term. So bringing him on as a left-hander was really the only change we made. The rest of the relievers are all players who were with the Yankees last season. Got through spring training without too many injuries. Joely Rodriguez, another lefty out of the bullpen, did get hurt early in spring training and is going to be gone for another 4 months. So pitched well for the Yankees after they picked him up from Texas last year, but unfortunately he's going to miss most of this season, but hopefully will be with us by the summer to help with the playoff push. So our roster is very different than it was just a few months ago when we took over. We made a lot of the changes that we wanted to, feel that we still absolutely have a team that can compete, and our goal is to make the playoffs this season, improve our team batting average, and they did want us to sign Jake Lamb, and he's also, for some reason, a locally popular player. So we've accomplished a couple of the tasks that Hal Steinbrenner had for us, but clearly the most important is to get back into the playoffs and see what happens there. Certainly I feel if our pitching is healthy with Cole and Rodon and Montgomery at the top of the rotation, feel a lot better that if we have the three of them pitching, we're going to be competitive in any postseason series that we have. So thank you so much for watching. In our next episode, we will recap this 2022 season that is just starting out and see whether the big shakeup that we have made with the Yankees, no more Aaron Hicks, no more Gary Sanchez, and no more several other players, as we talked about through trades, whether the team that is starting to be built in our image rather than Brian Cashman's image can do better at winning championships than the Yankees have in recent years. Hope you have a great day. Thanks for watching.